Hey beautiful souls, David Essery here. I wanted to do a video today to talk about rebuilding trust in the universe and yourself. I thought what better place to do it than the beautiful Rhinefield Ornamental Drive in the New Forest, where there are some truly magnificent trees. As we go on this walk and talk, we're going to be talking about why life is so challenging, seeing things from the highest perspective, about anger, about accepting responsibility, letting go, and of course, trust. Feel like joining me now? Let's go on a little walk and just see what happens, shall we? I'd start off by this incredible tree behind me. I'm just going to show you a little bit of where I am to start off with. As we walk around today, we will flip things back and forth so I can show you this truly magnificent place. Just try and show you the canopy of trees as well. Some absolutely stunning redwoods out here, which are just massive. Such an incredible place. So, let's kick things off, shall we? Why is life so challenging? The eternal question that we have pondered for so long. Of course, we're going to be looking at this and talking from a spiritual perspective today. And really, a lot of it boils down to the fact of actually what is the earth. Now, the answer to that really is that the earth is a school. It's a training ground. And it's actually a school that's incredibly difficult to get into. It's considered the most challenging environment to learn in anywhere in the universe. So what's the point of it? What are we trying to learn in this school, and why on earth would I sign up for? Well, the way I see things, the meaning of life is essentially ascension. It's about returning to God. And it's the reason why we come down here. It's the reason why we do anything, really. And it's the reason for reincarnation. In every single lifetime where we come back over and over, we're here to learn lessons, to grow in personality, in mind, emotionally, and of course in light. You know, as we overcome the challenges of life, we expand our light. The more we expand our light, the more we get closer to that ultimate achievement, to essentially return to God. And there are lots and lots of places around the universe that you can go to learn. You know, many of the other planets and star systems that we're aware of, you can go to learn. Many of them, life isn't physical like it is for us. They are energetic beings. And in some respects, that makes things easier. They don't have some of the challenges that we do so for life on Earth. But as I said, the Earth is considered the hardest of these schools. Oh, hello, little squirrel dude. If you can see him just running off to the trees there. Hopping off into the distance. Yeah, the Earth is considered the toughest. And you actually need to go through quite a number of lifetimes. You need to grow to quite a high level before you're even accepted into the Earth school. You have to train very, very hard, and you have to reach a certain light quotient within your soul, within your monad. And then there's a waiting list. And that's what's so truly incredible about the time that we're living in now. To be here on Earth right now is an incredible thing. And of course, when you get down to Earth, we've then got a vast degree of people at different levels. You know, when you look at the state of the world and the way that many people are behaving, you might think some people to be less spiritually evolved. But the reality is they're here. So they must be doing pretty well if they made it here in the first place. That's quite an incredible achievement for anyone who's been here right now. And as it is a school, we're meant to learn. And there is no better way to learn often through experience. Beautiful trees around me. You know, we never grow stronger than we do when we experience something. It's not the same as reading a book or watching a video or anything like that. Those lessons can be forgotten. It's when you truly experience something firsthand that you really learn from it and you grow as an individual. And that's what we do down here. We undergo experiences and we learn. And there is, you know, on the road to ascension, there is a number of key experiences that everyone is to go through. And you know, I touched on this very briefly in my recent video where I was talking about the heart, about living open-hearted, and how there's 33 chambers of the heart, and each one opens when you overcome a certain scenario in life or lives. And it's much the same as a general rule for ascension. There's certain situations that we are to overcome throughout our lifetimes. It's like ticking a box, you know, got to get them all. Every time you achieve one of these things, you grow spiritually. And so essentially there are a number of things that we can do within a lifetime. We can tick some of these boxes off in order to grow. And we don't do them all in one lifetime, absolutely not. This takes, you know, thousands, hundreds, whatever I couldn't specifically say. Interesting little bridge here. Let's walk over this and see if I collapse as we go. Love taking you guys on adventures with me. I never know what I'm going to find. So we decide before we come down to Earth the key lessons that we want to learn for a particular lifetime. And then from there we make agreements with other souls that they will help us with these particular things that we want to learn. And that sounds really lovely when you're up there and doing it. Like, oh yeah, if you do this, I can do this and I'll help you out and we'll get there together. Sounds great. But the reality is actually that sometimes these people come into our lives because they're meant to almost antagonize us into a situation where we have to learn the lesson. And that's not so pleasant for us when we're down here. And really, you know, we call these lessons initiations. That's the most common term for them. And they can be absolutely brutal. And to make them even more challenging, we're often set up in a way that our personality is perhaps not aligned to accept these things easily, if that makes sense. You know, that it might be that the particular thing we've got to learn to overcome, we actually have a fear of something. And therefore, overcoming that lesson becomes incredibly challenging. So, this just makes the Earth scenario incredibly hard work. We are put into situations, we are put with people that are actually designed to make us struggle so that we can push through and overcome that struggle. And when we say this, it sounds really cruel. Like, who would do this to us? Like, really? No. Who would do this? But that kind of leads me on to my next point, I think, quite nicely actually, which is seeing things from a higher perspective. When we're down here going through these things, going through these initiations, and we're faced with such challenges and we're angry and we're sad and we're hurt, it can be very hard to take a step back and go, well, actually the reason why I'm going through this is because it's going to mean that I overcome this lesson, and then I'm going to be stronger for it, and I'm going to move forward in my life better than I ever was before. We don't think that way, you know. We just see the strife that we're going through, and understandably so. That's completely natural and normal. But really, the key to understanding what we're going through down here is to recognize this higher perspective. Because if we can do that, if we can get to a point that when we go through these situations, we can go, okay, you know what, right now this sucks, but I'm going to come out the other side of it. I am going to survive this. And because of it, I am going to grow stronger. I'm going to be better. And I'm never going to have to worry about this thing in my life again, you know? And that is the nature of initiations, is that the universe presents us with a scenario that we are to overcome. And we essentially have a choice. We either face it head on and tackle it and work to overcome it, or we run away. If we run away, the universe will continue to keep presenting us with this scenario. So ultimately, it's not for our best, it's not for our highest good, because we're just going to continue to experience this thing again. If we do face it head on, there's a possibility that we may not overcome it first time. It's a possibility that we may face the situation and we do well, but actually we don't completely conquer it. And if that's the case, I'm going to turn around and go back into the depths of the forest. I seem to have ended up on a road. If that's the case, if we face it and don't completely overcome it, then the universe will present us with another opportunity to do so. You know, we don't have to worry and stress about whether we miss these opportunities or not, because they're part of our life plan to overcome these things, you know. So we will be presented with another opportunity to do so. And this clarity can just at times make it easier to understand what's going on. And that's not to say if your best friend or your family member is going through absolute hell right now, you should turn around and say to them, oh, don't worry about it, it's for your highest good. It's, you know, it's meant to be, everything will be all right. Because that's not what people want to hear, is it? You know, when someone's going through a really, really tough time, they don't want to hear that, oh, this is for your highest good. Maybe later, give them a few hours, and then you can have this conversation. At the time, everyone just wants to be told, oh yeah, this is terrible, this is awful, this is the worst thing that's ever happened, and you know, that'll make your friend happy, and then you can have these conversations a little bit later on, perhaps. So the other thing that kind of ties in with this higher perspective is, of course, it's very easy when we're going through very hard times to place blame on people, and in particular that falls to God or the universe or whatever you want to call it, Jah, Brahman, whatever you, in your own kind of view of spirituality of the world, whatever you label that thing, it doesn't matter. It's whatever works for you. But it's very easy to lay that blame on God or the universe as being responsible for all of these terrible things that happen to us. The reality is, actually, it's usually our highest self that's chosen this path. As I said earlier, you know, before we come down, we pick the circumstances that we want for this lifetime, the things that we need to overcome. And therefore, there really isn't, it's not God's fault that you're going through these things. It's in fact something that you chose, that you agreed to, that you signed up for. But of course, again, we don't really want to hear this, do we? We just want to place, it's quite a human thing to, you know, to place the blame for something somewhere else. Sorry, just stopping and starting is a very noisy family slipping and sliding in the mud back there. I didn't want to get them all in shot as I was walking through. So yes, that really brings me on to my next topic, which is anger. You know, and to say, it's very easy to blame someone. And of course, when it comes to blame, we get angry. And trust me, I've been there. I've done my writing angry letters to God and burning them in the back garden phase and things when everything got too much and I felt pressurised and let down and hurt. You know, none of us are immune to this stuff. We're all going through this process. And it's completely understandable to be angry with God, or whatever you want to call it, as a result of this. And that's okay. That's okay. God can take it. God's a tough nut, you know. It can take this, and it will never ever have anything but pure unconditional love for you in return. You don't need to worry about upsetting God or anything like that for the way you feel or act or say or whatever it is. It's okay to express that. And in fact, I encourage you to express that, because you have these feelings for a reason and you don't want to internalize that. You know, anger, when it's trapped in the body, will do an awful lot of harm. And so it's best to get that out. And that's exactly why, you know, my method for that is to write it all down and burn it. I'm not naturally an angry person. I don't really express it in any form. So for me to be able to collect my thoughts in that way is what works. And as I say, that's perfectly natural. It's perfectly human, and it's perfectly acceptable to feel that way. The problem is when we hold on to it, you know, that can get us stuck in place, you know, where we're so focused on that anger and we can't see anything else through it. It becomes a block, and of course nothing lowers our vibration like anger, and it will prevent us from moving forward and from holding as much light as we may want to. And so, although it's a very, very healthy and normal emotion to express when we feel it, we can't hold on to it. And that's back where the higher perspective comes back into things, really, because it's important to remember that actually God's not responsible. It's not God's fault. When God created life, he created free will, and that's what we all have down here. Each and every single one of us has free will, and that essentially means that we can do whatever we want. You know, we may have come up with a plan before we came down here of what we wanted to learn and what we wanted to overcome and achieve. But once we get down here, it's fair game. We can do whatever we want. If we want to completely ignore those initiations when the universe presents themselves to us, we absolutely can do. We can go off down a completely different path. And I'm sure, you know, all of us have done at some point in a past life. But free will is important. Free will is what gives us life. If we didn't have free will, essentially we would be controlled. God would own all of our souls, and we would have no choice in what we do in life, and we would essentially be drones. We wouldn't really be alive. Free will is important. But because we have free will, because of this, essentially God is not able to intervene in our lives unless we give permission, unless we directly ask for it. Only then is God or the angels or the ascended masters or whoever it is that you're praying to able to step in and make a change in our life. Because if we waited, then that would divert our free will, which they are under no circumstances allowed to do, even God himself. And you may think, you know, well then why do people have these scenarios in life where some miracle happens to them and they're saved or something like that. And, you know, some of these things are part of their life plan, and therefore that was supposed to happen. They were meant to have that experience because it's going to trigger and lead on to something else. But because we have free will, because of everything is up to us, it's not really God's fault that we go through what we go through. He gave us life and set us out into the universe to do what we desire to do. And after that, it's up to us. That kind of leads me on to my next topic, which is accepting responsibility. And this was one of the most profound moments for me when I had this realization. And it actually came forward in a channeled message. I want to say from Sanat Kumar or Serapis Bay. I think it was from one of those two. And I did share it in a video on this channel a while back, but unfortunately I can't remember what video it is, which isn't very helpful. But he was talking about manifesting and about accepting responsibility for what we manifest in life, whether that's the good or, of course, the bad. And no one wants to think about that, right? We all want to think, yes, I can set my intent and set my focus and really put my mind to something and I can create the good things in life. But no one wants to think that they create the bad things in life. No one wants to be told that they're creating the bad things in their life. But if you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll have heard me say a million times that we manifest the world around us through our thoughts and our perceptions and our expectations of the world. And of course that includes the negative as well. Of course it does. And that actually means that sometimes the stuff that happens in our lives, and I will say sometimes because it's not the only reason these things happen, but sometimes we create these scenarios in our lives. You know, it's a classic thing, isn't it? You see it in TV and movies all the time, where someone's crying out to God saying, why does this keep happening to me? Why do I keep going through this over and over again? And in these classic scenarios, it's usually because that person's manifesting it as some trait through their personality. And I honestly believe to really become a master of our energy, of our lives, we have to take complete responsibility for it, for the good and for the bad. To be able to look back at a scenario that happens that was quite frankly rubbish and say, hang on a minute, did I make that happen because I was afraid that was going to happen? You know, are you constantly living in fear of something, and then all of a sudden that scenario keeps on playing out for you in your life? Squelchy mud. Squelchy. Ooh, a river. I haven't flipped around for a little while. Let's come and explore this river together. So, again, these are all just things really that it's important to think about when we look at our lives, when we look at the scenarios that are playing out, when we're asking ourselves the question I asked at the beginning, why is life so challenging? You know, is it because I'm going through an initiation? Is there some opportunity for higher learning from this? Is it because I keep on running away from this scenario? Or is this perhaps something that I've manifested myself? Or perhaps sometimes someone in my life has manifested for themselves. You know, we have close bonds with families and things like that, and when that happens, our realities tend to crash into each other, you know, and it's possible that somebody in your life is manifesting these scenarios and then you're going through them with them by proxy. That happens too. I honestly think self-reflection is important. It helps us to understand us, it helps us to understand the world and our place within it. And so yeah, that's accepting responsibility. Which leads me on to letting go. And this is kind of a bit of a culmination of everything that we've talked about so far today. It's about understanding why the world is as it is, because the earth is a school. And of course, what I didn't even touch on with that is the fact that we're going through this ascension process. And if that's something, a concept that's new to you, the ascension process is essentially something that began in 2012. I'm just going to let this plane go over, just in case it's too noisy and distracting things. There we go, that should be a bit better, I think. The ascension process, it began on the 21st of December 2012, and essentially is much like I was talking about for us earlier. We're going through our own ascension. The planet is going through its own ascension, where it is raising its vibration, it's increasing its light level and dropping the density that it's been carrying from a lifetime, or countless generations of us kind of abusing her, really. And literally, as she is going through her ascension process, we are going through our own ascension process, because her vibration is rising, and therefore we have to rise our vibration in order to match it. And essentially what that means is letting go of all the density, all the shadows that we're creating, that we're holding, all of the pain, all of the trauma, all of the karma, all of the energy, anything that we've accumulated from countless lifetimes of density, we're working to release. And this is why we see such chaos in the world at the moment, because everyone is going through this experience, and the planet's going through this experience, and therefore collectively we're going through this experience as a society. And we're seeing all of these things, all of this corruption that we're seeing in the world that makes it look like we're living in such a terrible, terrible time. The reality is that all of this stuff has been there and going on for a long, long time, but it remained in the shadows. Now there is so much light, it's impossible for anything to stay hidden, and it's all coming out. And of course, because of this process, because it's shining the light on our shadows and drawing out all of our past traumas and blocks and karma and all of these kind of things, life for us has become so challenging as a result, because we're being forced to, well, I say forced because again, now I played into my own trick then, didn't I? Like I'm blaming God for it. And I've already said that it's not up to God, because we chose, our highest perspective chose to come down to this planet at this time, knowing full well that what we were going through. So therefore we weren't forced at all. We chose to come down and go through this ascension process, which is a 20-year period where we are to completely dissolve all of that negativity, personally and collectively, which is an incredible feat, I might add. Something that's never been achieved in such a short period of time anywhere in the universe before. And that's how amazing you are, because you're doing it. 12 years in you are now, and you are still here, and you are still standing, and you're still pushing forward. That is how amazing you are. And that, of course, even without Earth being a school, with that on top, yeah, life is challenging. Life is so hard. And then, of course, as the vibration rises, time speeds up. And our timelines are going crazy at the moment. I'm honestly, I start doing something and I'm halfway through doing it and I've jumped timeline, and literally the first half of the thing that I did doesn't exist. It's like it never happened. I don't know if you guys are experiencing that. It's bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. And yeah, all of that makes life very, very challenging. But as I was saying, letting go. Got a bit off piece there. Letting go. If we can understand that we are here for a reason, that we are meant to learn these lessons, that there is a higher purpose in all of this, that we chose to do this as, you know, as our highest self. We chose to do this. You know, we on some level, whether it's because we're manifesting our world down here or because we chose this upstairs, we are responsible for this. If we can do that, we can release the anger, hopefully. You know, we can release the blame in God or whoever, because they didn't do this to us. If we can go through all of these processes and just accept that this is where I am right now. Yes, life is hard. Life is truly, truly challenging. But it's only a window of time. So let's say a minute ago, we're 12 years into this process of a 20-year window. We're 12 years into it. We're over halfway there now. And I'm not saying that, you know, by the end of that 20-year period, we're going to be in a shiny utopian society. But we will have come so far that we are ready to begin building that society. That's where we'll be. Let's see if we can push through the branches here. It's so chilly. If we can accept all of this, we can release the anger, then we can let it all go. Because if we don't, really the only person we're punishing is us. We're the one that suffers because we're holding that anger, because we're blaming other scenarios, because we can't see that we are manifesting scenarios, and therefore if we can't see it, we can't change it. We can't make our lives better. If we can let all of that go, then eventually that leads us back to my final point, which is trust. Trust that I may find my way out of this little wooden bit that I've got into. I'm going to keep pushing in deeper and see what happens. Trust in the universe. Trust in ourselves as creator of our own world. Trust that we can create it in the image that we desire to. But at the same time, acceptance that life is going to be challenging, because life is a school. Oh, I lost my hat. Yes, sorry, say life is a school. It's going to be challenging. And acceptance of that, acceptance of all of it, is what leads us to a place of trust. And the truth is, although it might not seem it at times, and although we may not get the amount that we desire, we are incredibly supported. Probably more so than we have ever been down here. We are surrounded by an influx of, at times, billions of angels. In fact, at all times, billions of angels, because we've all got our own individual angel. But at other times, being flooded to assist with the planetary processes. There's dragons, there's unicorns, there's the ascended masters. And they are here to support us, and in fact, want to support us in everything that we do. We just have to call on them, we just have to grant them permission. And yes, there's always going to be those times where we're going through an initiation and we have to experience those things for the highest good, and they're not able to step in. But there's also lots and lots of times where we're calling on their support and it might seem like they're not there. You know, that we're just not getting the help that we want. And that often comes down to, there's a couple of things. Sometimes they are actually there and they're helping, but they're just not helping in the manner that we asked them to or that we expected them to. Perhaps, you know, they're helping by speeding the process along, which actually makes it temporarily more challenging. Or, you know, perhaps they did something that you never saw. Perhaps you were going to have an encounter with someone else or something like that, and that just never happened, and you would never know it existed. You would never know the help that you had received, but it was there. There's a really beautiful poem about walking along the beach at times of trouble and praying for help, and you look down and there's only the single set of footsteps, i.e. being yours. But God responds. The times that you look down, there was only one set of footsteps, was the times that I were carrying you. And I love that. I absolutely love that idea. And we just don't know when they're there helping in ways that we're not aware of. The other thing, of course, is that sometimes, as much as we want to help, as much as we pray for it, we ask for it, sometimes we have subconscious programs running where we don't perhaps feel worthy of the help, or any other reason that we may be, it's like, help me, but we're doing this the whole time. We're like pushing it back. You know, we see this in all sorts of areas of life where we want something, but we don't accept it, and therefore we can't manifest it. And it's exactly the same with the angels helping us. We can be speaking with our mouth, help me, but if our subconscious, if our energy and our resonance is saying, no, don't help me, then they can't help you. And so calling in the support that we really need kind of brings us back to a place of trying to overcome those blocks. And I may be able to help you with that. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But if we can clear those blocks, if we can see the highest perspective in a scenario, if we can release the anger, if we can accept responsibility, and if we can let go of all of the emotion associated with all of these things, then eventually we can get to a place of trust. A trust that the universe is there to support us and look out for us. Trust in ourselves and our own capability to manifest the world that we want to create, not the one we don't want to create. When we find trust, we find peace. We can trust that the universe has got our back at all times, and if we are going through a challenging situation, then actually it's for a good reason, and that you'll move through it and you'll come out the other side and everything will be okay. You can trust that all of your needs are going to be met. You can trust that you will find your way to your pathway and all of the things that you're meant to do in life. You can trust that the people and the scenarios and the situations and all of the things that you need in order to fulfill that are going to come into your life. You can trust and you can be at peace. So there we go. I've rambled on again. I've gotten a little bit lost. All of the things you would expect from one of my walk and talk videos. Yes, I said I might be able to help you out a little bit with the support thing. I'm actually running a workshop on February 6th called Aligning Yourself with Universal Support, where we are going to be working to dissolve blocks to receiving the highest level of support that we possibly can, letting go of all those things that may subconsciously be putting the blocks up, putting the barriers up, so that we can welcome in our angels and ascended masters and our various teams of light to really support us as best that they can do, because they want to help us. They're standing at the ready to help us as much as they can. And when we do that, once we've done that, we're going to call in our support team. We're going to call in all of those souls who can assist us, who can overlight us on our journey, so that we may move forward with our pathways as blessed and as supported and as loved as possible. And then we're going to work with them to try to begin to manifest what it is that we want in our life. And we're going to clear everything that obstructs that. We're going to work through karma, we're going to work through past life stuff, energetic blocks, the works. We're going to have a really good clear out and start welcoming support into our lives so we can rebuild that trust once again. So if you fancy joining me for that, I'll pop the link down in the description below. If you're watching this video in the future, the same link will take you to a recording of the event, which is always just as powerful. I want to thank you so much for sticking with me throughout this rather long video, and I really hope you've enjoyed it. If you do, please do like and subscribe. I do these regular walk and talks, I share meditations, channeled messages, all sorts, and we would love to have you as a part of our community. From my heart to yours, thank you so much for watching today and sending you so much love. Bye-bye.